My half-brother is coming at my neck for my inheritance, but hey, he doesn't have any claim, any right to it, but you will not believe when my stepfather sides with him. I'm telling you, this is crazy, but I have a trick up my sleeve they weren't ready for. I'm 34 and female. I'm the only child from my mother's first marriage with my father. My mother and father had a really messy divorce when I was 4, and my mother remarried my stepfather very soon after. I haven't heard from my father since I was 10 years of age, and I've made no effort to contact him since. I have one brother who resulted from my mother's second marriage to my stepfather. He's 25 and we aren't very close. My mother passed away 10 years ago to breast cancer. It was really hard on my brother as he was only 15 when this happened. My stepfather suffered a lot afterwards too, and I also had to become the breadwinner for the family for 3 months before he was able to pull himself together and go back to work. I'm very close with my stepfather and I love him a lot, but he's always drawn a line between us. He loves me too and is very vocal about it, very affectionate, but he's always made sure that I know that he is not my father. This hurt a lot when I was younger, but I've moved past it now as an adult. When my mother died, she had about $50,000 in savings. That was split between my brother and me. He was only 15, so the money was put away so that he could access it when he was 18. But I used mine to pay off my student loans right away. Once my brother turned 18, he pretty much wasted all his money away before he even went to college. So now he's in considerable amount of debt, and I'm debt-free and have a good job. A week ago, I received a call from a lawyer. My biological father died, and as I was with his only child, his assets would be given all to me. Guys, he had over $1 million in assets, all of which were sold upon his request after he died. I now know that I'm really, really rich, with no idea what to do with all of it. I'm in a lot of emotional turmoil at the moment, just because I hadn't even known my father was sick and his death came very suddenly. I have to mourn him without really having to know him, and now I have all this death money, and I feel like I should have done something noble with it, like donate it to breast cancer charity for Mom. But I also want to just live my best life. I have no debts to pay, and I'm good with money. I could invest this and make it last my entire life. When I first got the news, I did what anyone would do when they suddenly have millions of dollars. I went on the biggest night out with my friends I could think of. I flew us all out to Vegas, and we went crazy for a few days. Now, I'm back home and I haven't even spent a chunk of my inheritance. If all that isn't enough, as well as the money, my dad wrote me a letter that would be delivered in the event of his death. I just got it in the mail yesterday, and he revealed some things about my mom that I had no idea about. Mom always spun the divorce idea between her and Dad as some sort of mutual separation and made it all seem very calm. But she always told me that it was my father who decided that he did not want to see me anymore. I would see him sporadically throughout my childhood. He'd show up every second birthday and sit in a corner moodily. Then he would give me a big expensive present while glaring at my mother and stepdad. I never paid much attention to him as a kid. He was just a guy who brought gifts, and when I was a teenager, I started to struggle with abandonment issues. As any teen girl would without a father, right? My mom sat me down and told me that it's not my fault, that my father was just not a good man, and that I was better off without him anyways. Well, I believed all this up until now when I got my dad's letter. Apparently, he had not wanted the divorce at all. It was less than mutual. According to my dad, he was head over heels in love with Mother, willing to do anything for her. He agreed to be a stay-at-home father so that she could work when she began struggling with postpartum depression. Once my mom went back to work, she met my stepfather. Apparently, he was her manager at the company she worked at, and they hit it off right away. In the letter my dad sent, he said that my mom began to have an affair with my stepfather behind his back when I was 2 years old. So, he would be at home, taking care of me and tending the house, while she would be having, quote, business meetings with her boss in a motel every weekend. Eventually, my dad found out and told my mom that she had to stop her affair or he'd leave her. He says that he was hoping that she'd come to her senses and break things off with my stepdad, but she did not. She left my dad in a heartbeat and married my stepfather the next year. My dad said that he tried to get custody of me, but the courts have a bias towards mothers, so I ended up in my mom and stepdad's care. My dad tried to get visitation, but my mom blocked him as much as she could, and that's why he could only show up at birthdays. Apparently, Dad never loved another woman, and that's the reason he never had any more kids. He died with a broken heart, if the letter is to be believed. Listen, I'm taking this all with a grain of salt, I know. I've heard my mom's side of the story all my life, now I'm hearing my father's. I have no doubt that both parties are embellishing things, leaving things out and editing the narrative to make themselves seem more sympathetic. It's just that, until now, I'd never even heard my father's side. And that's why it's throwing me for an absolute loop. I asked my stepdad if it was true that my mom and he had been having an affair behind my dad's back, and he got all moody and sullen. But finally he admitted it was the truth. I was upset enough, honestly. My childhood was being turned upside down on itself. Everything I believed about my parents, relationships, and divorce proved to be untrue. It was then, though, that my little brother decided to get involved. He called me up the other night, trying to be casual, but I knew he had something on his mind. He barely ever calls me, and we usually text once or twice a month, and he had this crappy tone in his voice. He asked me about work, how I was doing. But when I finally snapped at him and told him to cut to the chase, he blurted out that I should give him half of my inheritance. I didn't even know what to say. I hadn't even told him about my dad's death or the money. The only person I told was my stepdad. But clearly, he'd gone running to my brother to tell him. I should have known better than to talk to my stepdad about it. He's always just some sort of pushover when it comes to my little brother. But I just wanted to get to the bottom of the situation and sort out my thoughts. I laughed at first. I really thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He got all ratty with me when I laughed and told me that it isn't fair that I get so much money, especially when he's the one who's in debt and unemployed, when I have a well-paying job. I was in awe at the audacity of this kid. Really? Who did he think he was? I said as much and he started crying. He was making these fake sobbing noises, wailing that he was in so much trouble. He owed so much money, but I wasn't buying it. The waterworks might work on my stepfather, but they don't on me. I've watched this kid grow up into the spoiled, entitled brat that he is. Once he realized that the tears weren't going to cut it, he changed tactics. He started yelling at me, really bellowing over the phone, telling me that I was a selfish jerk, saying really, really nasty, horrible things. He said it's no wonder my dad abandoned me, and that he understood how my mom would leave my dad if he was anything like me. This didn't get to me either, honestly. I was just sitting on my couch with my phone at my arm's length while he screamed at me. He clearly had not got the full story from his dad if he was bringing up my dad abandoning me. I'd like to say that he would not have the audacity to speak to me that way if he'd known that his father was the reason my parents broke up. That I was left without a father for my entire life, but I think that would be expecting too much of him, right? Well, he was grasping at the end of the phone call, out of breath after his tirade, and I was just in shock. Yeah, I mean, we've never been close, but he's still my brother. Never until now have I thought of him as my half-brother. He was never anything but my little bro. But now I'm really reevaluating that, and I knew he was spoiled, and I knew he liked to push his dad around, but I never thought that he'd have the nerve to try it on me. I guess I've always given him a pass for being emotionally stunted and immature, because he was still a kid when Mom died. But honestly, he has some balls to speak to me like that. When Mom died, my stepdad was in bed for months, and I had to be the one to take care of everything. I paid the bills, I drove my brother to school, I cleaned the house, I brought my stepdad his meals 3 times a day, and took them back untouched and after a few hours. I washed this kid's gym socks, and he has the audacity to cop an attitude with me, now not sharing something he has no claim to? Yeah, I'm done with him. I feel betrayed by my stepfather also for running and telling my brother my business as soon as he heard it, like it was a fresh gossip off the press, rather than real and actual real emotional turmoil I was going through. But I shouldn't be surprised. Even before Mom died, my brother has walked all over his father and gotten whatever he wanted. I'm pretty sure my stepdad still pays his bills for him, and I know for a fact he does his laundry. This has just made it clear that those two are their own separate family, and I'm on my own now, to be honest. I'm going to call my stepfather tomorrow and talk to him about this. I doubt he's even on board with the crazy plan. He's soft to my brother's face, but he's always working behind the scenes to offset all his crazy ideas. I'm going to ask him how I should deal with this. There's no part of me that wants to share my dad's money with my brother. I think he met my dad maybe 3 times in his entire life. Well, the thing is, if my brother had asked for a loan, I would have given it to him without a second thought. I would have even paid off his debt and his student loans without even expecting him to pay me back. Heck, I was half considering it before he even called me. But now he's not getting a dime. He's greedy, and he flew too close to the sun, and now he's paying for it. I honestly don't even think I'm the a-hole in this situation, but I know that people here are super active, so I thought I'd put a post up, just getting everything off my chest. I've talked to my friends about it, obviously, but I need the opinion of unbiased strangers of the interweb. I don't need you guys to tell me if I'm in the wrong or not, because I know for a fact I'm not. I'm just hoping you guys can maybe give me some advice on how to handle the situation effectively and communicate that my brother is not getting $1. Update number 1. So, I called my stepdad out for lunch to discuss everything, and things did not go as planned. He actually thinks that I should split the money with my brother. He said that it would be selfish not to. I'm in shock. I always knew that my stepdad loved my brother more than me, and I got over that a long time ago. It's natural to have a preference for your own child, but never in my life did I expect him to be so blatant about it. My entire life, he's made sure that I don't call him dad, and he's told me that he isn't my father. Let me know, in the gentlest and kindest possible way, that when he dies, I won't be getting a single thing from him. Not even one little bit. Well, but now when it comes to his own son, he's flipping the script. Apparently, it's not fair for my brother to be in debt and me not to be, when we both got money when Mom died. I asked him how it made sense for me to give my money up when I'm the one who paid off my student loans, and he's the one who blew his inheritance from my mom on video game consoles and sneakers, then had to sell them all 3 years later to make rent. Well, the logic seemed to be going in one of my father's ears and out the other, bouncing around in his seemingly empty skull for a while and flying out the other, because he was completely ignoring my point. So, I have 3 days to transfer half the money to my brother, or I'm dead to him. His words, not mine. I don't think these bozos have ever considered the fact that they're going to get taxed on this so hard that they'll barely even see a cent. I don't have to pay taxes on my inheritance because there's no inheritance tax in my state. But there sure is transfer your brother over $1 million tax. Well, the pair of them are clueless about money and neither are good at saving. They're just being greedy. I don't even know why my stepdad is lobbying for my brother, when we both know that he won't be seeing a cent of that money if I do give in, which I won't. I tried to explain to him the double standard in expecting me to give half of my inheritance to my brother, when it's been made clear to me from the day one that my stepdad met me that I won't get a thing when he dies. But he just rolls his eyes. I pretty much shut down after that. I stopped responding to all his dumb arguments and I pretty much just retreated into myself. I think he could tell that I wasn't listening because he left pretty soon after. I know for a fact that the first thing he did when he left the restaurant was call my brother and update him on the situation. Because not even 10 minutes later, I get a call from him. I was considering letting the phone ring to send him a message, but I wanted to know what he had to say. He was doing the fake sobbing again, and I just couldn't take him seriously. I told him that if he was so desperate for an inheritance, He should go and wait for his own father to die, and I hung up the phone. I do feel like that might have been a bit too harsh. I really do. But at this point, I really don't know how else to impress upon the bozos that they're not getting a dime from me. Not in a million years. Obviously, I don't wish death on my stepdad. He helped raise me, for goodness sakes, but the way he's been behaving right now is absolutely insane. He should know better. The thing is this. I would have expected this kind of thing from my brother. He hates it when other people just get things and he doesn't. Mom and Dad used to have to buy him his own present on my birthday, or he would throw a fit and break things out of rage and jealousy. Whenever I commented on how unfair it was that he got something on my birthday, but I got nothing on his, I was told that I'm older and much more mature. Well, this is pretty much par the course for this kid. It's not like I knew that he was going to do this. Even if I didn't think he had this much audacity, I was sure he would whine and moan behind my back about how unfair the whole situation actually was. I did not think he'd launched this immature attack on me. It's the way my stepdad is acting that's really getting me down. I loved him like a father all my life. He raised me. He came to all my dance recitals, brought me horse riding. He did everything a father does. Sure, he always told me that he was not my father, but it did hurt. But in my head, he was my father figure. I always knew he preferred my brother, but I didn't expect him to take his side so aggressively like this. I'd expect him to pretend to be sympathetic to my brother, pat him on the back and tell him he was right. It is unfair, but I would have thought he'd secretly been on my side. My stepdad has never taken such an obvious side with my brother before. That's the problem. When we fought as kids, he would send me to my room, even if I wasn't the one in the wrong. But he would always sneak up to see me later and just apologize, give me a hug and tell me I was right. Sometimes he'd even bring up a chocolate bar and tell me not to tell my brother. That's the kind of thing I expected. He always took my brother's side when he was in the room. But he always let me know privately that I was right. That's why I'm so taken aback for all this. I haven't been in my room with both my brother and stepdad at the same time in 6 months? So why the heck is my stepdad still putting on this performance? He's not a stupid guy. He has to know that I don't owe my brother anything. Anyways, here's my little update. I'm in the car right now, I just left the restaurant, and I thought you guys might be curious about how everything's been working out. I highly doubt that this is the end of it, so I'll probably be back on here soon to update. Thank you. Update number 2. I was right when I said things would not be over yet, but even I'm shocked at what this little rat did. Guys, he called the cops on me. I got a call yesterday afternoon from a cop asking me to come to the station and give a statement, because my brother is trying to get me arrested for not giving him his rightful heir. I'm in amazement. I seriously am. He didn't even tell the cops the whole story, obviously. He just said that I owed him money and refused to pay him. So, when I explained the real situation, the poor cops were so embarrassed that they made me come down to the station. They apologized so much. I thought they were going to get on their knees or something. I had to show them emails from my dad's lawyers that specifically stated I am my dad's only child. Then I showed them texts from my brother and my stepdad that say right there on the screen that they weren't related to my birth father in any way. So, I went home and I called my brother right away. I didn't even get the little rat a chance to speak. I just yelled at him louder than I've ever yelled at anyone in my life. I called him spoiled. I called him a brat. I told him he should be on his knees thanking me for the holiday, the family together, when my mom died. I aired out every grievance I've ever had with him, and then I told him never to call me again. It felt good. It felt cathartic, but I was still in a blind rage. I called my stepdad. And I know people are going to think I'm dumb for this, but I called him expecting him to know what my brother had done. I thought if he finally realized what an idiot my brother was being and how far he was taking all this, I thought that he would come to his senses and finally rein in his child, but oh no. He's known all about it. The jerk actually suggested it. I'm just shaking with anger right now. I'm trying to keep my language in check. I know there are kids on here, but I'm just so angry. I feel let down. I feel betrayed. But the hurt's like 25% of what I'm feeling now, and the rest is just pure rage. Who the heck are these guys to act like they owed a piece of my inheritance? The only thing left from my father, who is my stepfather, to be the reason my dad died with a broken heart. The very man my mom cheated on my dad with, and then disrespect him even more from the afterlife? The audacity of these idiots is astounding. They have zero credibility in this, and I have that from the mouths of 3 cops who were just as shocked as I was when their idiocy came to light. They're dead to me, and I don't feel guilty saying it. I'm officially disowning them as family members, as far as I'm concerned. After the deaths of my mom and dad, I was left with nobody. No family at all. I don't care what kind of trouble they get into. I don't care if it's the mafia's threatening to cut their fingers off. Neither of them ever have the right to ask me for money. Well, sorry for the big rant. When I hung up on my stepdad yesterday, I called up a few of my friends and went to the bar right away. I drowned my anger in everything I could find. And I'm only sobering up and coming to my senses now. I was enraged yesterday, then I drank till I blacked out and forgot about it. Well, now I'm back to enraged again today. Unfortunately, I don't think it's healthy to get blackout drunk 2 days in a row to run from your troubles. So, instead, I'm trying to find catharsis by writing everything down to share with you all. Good people. Well, it's not working. And going back over everything is just bringing me right back. Thanks anyways. Update 3, final update. Well, I had to call the cops. That's a really dramatic first line, I know that. But I just wanted to get it out of the way before I jump straight into this. It's been 8 months since I flash posted that update, and I was expecting everything to go back to normal. But, good goodness, it did not. At the end of my phone calls with both my brother and my stepdad, I told both of them not to contact me ever again. I was happy enough to just cut them out of my life, no questions asked. I don't know why I expected them to actually listen to me though. Probably just some naiveness lingering and affection for them, but oh, that's gone now. They both called me nonstop. Every time I went to sleep, I woke up with hundreds of text messages from them. So many missed calls. Calls I couldn't even count. The tone of them ranged a lot, went from pleading to anger to telling me mom would be disappointed in me for leaving my brother out. I thought they'd stop with time, lose their momentum maybe. Oh no, they didn't. After a week of this, I blocked both of their numbers. I don't know why I waited a week, but I did. After a few days of peace, where I thought it was over, they started calling me on new numbers. I didn't recognize them, so I did answer the phone. Unfortunately, when the angry text started coming in, I put 2 and 2 together again, and I blocked them again, and they got new numbers. I was kind of scared at this point. It's been 2 months of continuous harassment. Eventually, I gave in and got a new number myself, in hopes that they've been stopping calling if the number they had disconnected, but oh no, of course not. I had to update everybody at work, all my friends, cousins, and somehow they got a hold of my new number. I don't know if someone gave it to them or what, but at this point I was starting to feel unsafe. At the same time as their phone calls, I started getting strange letters in the mail. Threatening ones. There were knocks on my door in the middle of the night. I was a mess, honestly. I didn't know what to do. This was just so far outside of my realm of possibilities I could ever have come up with. It's like I didn't recognize these people. I don't know. I tried calling the cops a few times, but they just always told me that there's no crime being committed, so there's nothing that they could do. It was definitely scary. I always heard people say that money changes people, but I never imagined that people in my life would go this far. I ended up moving houses. Thanks to the money that started this mess, I managed to buy an apartment in a different part of town. It's nicer, and I'm closer to my friends, so I am happy with it. I just had to get out of that last place, because I didn't feel safe knowing that they knew where I lived, especially with the strange noises and the knocking on my door at 4 a.m. I changed my phone number again too, and this was about 2 months ago. Everything calmed down these past 2 months. I was more careful with who I gave my number to. And, well, I made sure to only tell close friends where my new apartment was. I thought that everything had blown over, and I was finally starting to relax. But a few days ago, things changed, and it got bad again. I was out for an hour or two getting groceries, then I had lunch with a friend. When I got home, my door had been kicked in. Someone broken into my home and trashed the place. I called the cops, and finally they were able to do something to protect me. My brother and stepfather were arrested. I don't think that they were the ones who broke in, but I'm 100% sure that they paid somebody to do it. I'm fine if they rot away in prison. The cops found texts between them planning all this harassment, so there's evidence at least, and I've been told that my best option is to file a restraining order. What really bugs me is that I don't know who it was that told them my new address. Now, on top of losing a brother, my stepdad, and my birth father, I'm going to have to comb through my close friends, one by one, try to figure out which one of them is the rat, and put my safety in danger. I'm definitely pressing charges. I don't care if I have to pay for an amazing lawyer. I'm not letting them get away with this at all. I'm going to use the money they wanted and hire the best therapist in state while they're rotting. I'm going mad like crazy. This was kind of a wild ride, I know. I just want to say that I appreciate all you guys for sticking it out with me through it all. My final piece of advice is, y'all, to this. If you come into a lot of money, don't you tell a soul. Alright guys, I just felt so bad for OP during this story. I mean, she literally lost everybody that she cared for. But the ones that were cracking me the most were the half-brother and the stepfather. And also the friend at the end who turned out to be a rat and gave away all her information. That's 3 loved ones that OP is now just cutting out of her life, all because of jealousy and money. Has to do with the inheritance always. Now, if you've been with the channel for quite some time, you would know how many sticky inheritance stories we've seen, but this one might be the worst because it was just so obvious from the get-go. They were after her money. Let me know your thoughts on this story, guys. I would love to know. What would you have done if you were in this position? Would you said, you know what? I am going to help you out. I'm not going to give you half of it because that's absurd, but I'm going to pay for your student loans to make sure you're not in debt, and I'm going to give you a little bit more cash. Or would you go the route that OP went and said, you know what? This is my money. You're not entitled to it at all, and you should have asked nicely. That would be really interesting if you guys drop that in the comment section. Don't argue with people in the comment sections, but let's talk about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. My name's Mr. Reddito. I'm here every single day, so let's go ahead and see you tomorrow.